Butcher. Butcher is basically a lot stronger than him when he's just human. Catches his fist and then beats the absolute crap out of Homelander and gets out his famous crowbar. Alright. So welcome back to DMR. Thank you for tuning back in. Man, it has been a massive week in entertainment and series. So this episode is going to be a spoiler review of Season 5 of The Boys. So the internet is absolutely ablaze with everything The Boys, Homelander, Butcher. It's all come to a climactic end. Man, everyone was waiting for this. Everybody was waiting for this moment on Amazon Prime since 2019. The Boys is based off a comic book as well. Ultra violent. Man, I've seen some of the clips from the comic book. It's absolutely wild stuff. So some big news with that as well. I'll go over the new show that has dropped, or the trailer that has dropped for The Boys universe called VOT Rising. But some exciting news. By the time you watch this, DMR will be one of, not the first, but one of the shows that are out there in podcast land to be launched via video format on Apple Podcasts. Some exciting stuff. Very, very pumped for this. So Apple have spent a lot of coin in putting their video format together since the start of the year. It piqued my interest, and then the site where I house the podcast has said it's now available. You can apply via Apple Podcasts to have video format for your show. We did that. It's come back, and hopefully you are watching it via video on Apple Podcasts. So some exciting stuff. Exciting times. And now I've had a look, and a lot of the big shows, I'm not going to name names, but you'll know some of the shows that I'm talking about when you talk about big podcasts that are out there in the land. It seems that none of them are doing this just yet. So we're very, very pumped to be one of the first shows, in my opinion, to be using this format. So let's not forget as well that DMR is part of the Audible Creators Program. So what does that mean for you, the listener or the viewer at home in your car? Well, there's a link in my show. You can jump on that link. It will take you over to Audible, and you can start a 30-day free trial on behalf of DMR. That's right, 30 days for free. And with all the hype with the new film that's being made at the moment, which is Heat 2, you can actually jump on Audible and download the copy of Heat 2. Now, I haven't finished this book as of yet, but it's very long, and it actually takes place before the events of Heat in 1995. It goes back into the 80s. Then it also fast forwards into, I think, the early 2000s, if memory serves. So if you haven't seen Heat and you've been living under a rock for 31 years, it is probably the best bank heist movie ever made. De Niro and Pacino, you can't go wrong. Val Kilmer, rest in peace. He's in it as well. It's one of the best movies ever made. Seriously. The gunfight in the street is insane. Some of the special ops, I think cops and stuff like that, watch this particular film so they can get an idea of how to use this specific type of automatic weapon. So it's just a crazy movie. So Heat 2, jump on there, grab that, crack of a listen if you're into that kind of stuff, and you'll be supporting DMR as well. Terms and conditions do apply, obviously, if you stick around past the 30 days. So again, we're pretty goddamn well pumped. Look at Boney in the background there. Whew. He's wearing the Peaky Blinders. So he's cheeky. He's a cheeky bugger. Cheeky bugger, that old Boney. But let's rip into it. Let's stop stuffing around and let's rip into The Boys. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit in terms of what The Boys are, go over the characters, the actors, actresses that play them, and then we're going to discuss some of the spoilers in terms of who doesn't make it in season 5. So let's rip into it, shall we? Alright, so The Boys. The Boys has been around since 2019 on Amazon Prime. It's a cracker of a show. If you haven't watched it, go back and check it out. 5 seasons. You'll be hooked as soon as you start watching this show. My wife and I are very much hooked in terms of getting to the end of this and seeing how the fates of these characters unravel. But again, it's based off a comic book. So I haven't read the comic book, but I have seen snippets of it on social media, and it is very dark to say the least. So I've gone on to AI and I've summarized a few notes to go over. Again, I'm going to read some of these and then put my own thoughts into it as well. So, summary. What is the summary of The Boys? The Boys is a dark, satirical, I think that's how you say it. Satirical? Who knows? Superhero television series based on the comic book by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. Developed by Eric Kripke, it premiered on Amazon Prime in 2019. The show flips the traditional superhero narrative right on its head. Goddamn well right it does. Wild stuff. Instead of noble, selfless protectors, the world superheroes known as Supes are mostly corrupt celebrities managed by a powerful corporation called Vought International. They care more about fame, money, and political influence than saving lives. At the center of the story is Hugh Campbell, an ordinary guy whose girlfriend is accidentally killed by a speedster superhero named A-Train. So A-Train is basically the version of the Flash, and you see that in the trailer for season number 1, and he's standing basically outside of, I think his store, electrical store, and his girlfriend steps into the street, and basically he's giving her a kiss goodbye, and all of a sudden she is absolutely wiped out by A-Train when he is running through the streets. She is completely obliterated. It is so disturbingly violent. And basically he runs off, and that's how he kind of gets into The Boys. It is absolutely nuts how this first shot is basically taken. So just incredible stuff with this particular opening scene. So let's keep reading, shall we? So, we got here, seeking justice, Hughie is recruited by Billy Butcher, the rough and vengeful leader of The Boys, a covert team dedicated to taking down Vought and exposing the Supes' corruption. Other members of the group include Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko. Each have their own tragic linked past for the Supes. Their main adversary, here we go, is Homelander. Homelander, the all-powerful and deeply unstable leader of the Seven, Vought's top superhero team. The series explores themes of power, accountability, celebrity worship, and corporate control, all under the blanket of a violent, darkly humorous action story. It blends graphic violence and social commentary, often parodying real-life political and media culture across its seasons. The Boys delves into conspiracies, moral grey areas, and consequences of unchecked power, creating a world where heroes look more like the villains and people who stand up to them are far from perfect themselves. So that's a bit of a snapshot of The Boys. So this is quite timely when this came out. So 2019, we had a massive run of superhero movies. Right back, let's go back to the 1980s when I was basically growing up. So I'm a 1985 baby, so I grew up with the 1989 Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman, and they had Batman Returns, and we had Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer in Batman Forever. He had Batman and Robin, which wasn't great, I think 97. So we had all those that we grew up with. Then in 1998, Blade came out via Marvel. Apparently that saved Marvel Studios back at the time. And I absolutely love that movie with Wesley Snipes and Stephen Dorff. Cracker film. Go back and check that one out if you haven't watched it. Then in the early 2000s, we had Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man in the 3 movies. Then we had a couple of the Hulk movies as well with Eric Bana and Ed Norton. And then it really kicked off, it ramped up with Marvel in 2008 with Robert Downey Jr., who played Iron Man. Then we had all the different single movies or story development movies of the Avengers, all their different, like Thor movies and a few others as well. And then we had the 2 Avenger movies. And the last one was in 2019, which was massive. I always said it was way too big for its own good. Don't get me wrong, I love the film. It's an incredible film if you go back and watch it. But it was way too big, and then after that we had Marvel releasing movies thereafter, and I just think that they couldn't compete with how big Endgame was. So don't get me wrong, I'm not discrediting Marvel's efforts with their movies, but it just didn't stack up in terms of how much popularity that big movie had. So 2019 is when The Boys dropped, right about that time. It's probably because people had superhero fatigue, I think, in terms of all these movies, and this flipped the narrative on its head completely when it came to graphic violence and how they portrayed these Supes as just complete douchebags controlled by Homelander and the corporation Vought. So let's continue in terms of who the characters are and what their powers are and who plays them as well. Alright, look at this DMR Vault. Whew, got the blood red light in the background there. It's all coming together very, very well. We're going to keep adding to this as well as time goes on. So I got here in terms of the characters. So the main guy on the good guy side, if you want to call that, is a guy called Billy Butcher, or played by Karl Urban. So what does it say here in terms of what he is and his vibes? So we've got here the vibe: dead man walking turned ultimate wild card, driven by Kessler, his inner hallucination. He goes entirely rogue to enact a global soup genocide. His powers eventually and skills: he's elite black ops strategist. He's got brutal hand-to-hand combat techniques. He's hyper manipulative as well. In Season 5, his permanent tumors from Temp V manifest as sentient deadly Kessler tentacles that rip out of his chest and tear enemies apart. So that's basically William Butcher to a degree there. Again, going over my show notes, people, I do prepare for these things. So again, it's okay to paraphrase. Don't have to be a polished usual self. So just bear with me. It's okay. It's all good. So Hughie Campbell, played by Jack Quaid. I think I did mention it. Yep. Karl Urban, he plays Butcher. So Hughie Campbell, played by Jack Quaid, the moral anchor of the entire show. This is the guy that loses his girlfriend at the start. So we've got here entire anchor of the show. Yep. Has the ultimate make, heartbreaking sacrifice in the finale. Yep. So powers and skills, no permanent powers. He's pretty much human throughout the whole show, that is. He relies entirely on his tech savviness, high intelligence. He's pretty smart as well. High intelligence, empathy, and his ability to see the humanity. Butcher, right up until he has to, or I'll get to that. This is a bit of a spoiler in terms of what happens to them at the end. We've got Annie January, who is Starlight, played by Erin Moriarty, I think that's how you say her last name. The vibe, leading the underground resistance after escaping Vought's clutches, because she was originally part of the Seven and at the start of the series. So her powers, bit of a funny one, this one. I don't know if I like this character's powers too much, but anyway. Her powers are she is an energy absorber or absorption and light blasting. She absorbs electricity from surrounding power grids to fire consecutive energy blasts. She can fly and unleashes blinding light. Not bad. Don't mind that at all. Then we've got Kimiko. She's pretty cool. She is pretty cool. Played by Karen Fukuhara. I think that's how you say her last name. So the vibe, the ultimate powerhouse of the group who finally finds her voice and accents in the 5th season because she can't talk for most of the series. So her powers, advanced regeneration and super strength. She can heal from literally any fatal wound in seconds. The finale, her powers mutate, allowing her to release a massive nuclear-style energy blast that permanently strips Compound V from any Sup. So the episode, I think it's the second last one or the third last one, they finally unleash this particular power, and then they use it on stage, which I'll get to in a second, the super smart one, and it strips the Supes of their powers. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. So continuing, you've got Marvin T, Mother's Milk, played by Laz Alonso. The vibe, imprisoned in a vault freedom camp. Early on, he breaks out of the lead to the ground operations alongside Annie and his powers and skills. He's fully human, master military tactician, firearms expert, and investigator. Frenchie, Tamur Capone, the vibe, the resident chemical genius who spends his final episodes concocting the weapon that changes the war. So his powers and skills, he's fully human, master chemist, weapons engineer, and infiltration expert. So getting over here, and we'll get on to the villains very, very shortly. We've got A-Train Reggie Franklin, played by Jesse T. Usher. The ultimate redemption arc of the series. He formally switches sides to aid the resistance. His powers, he's super quick. So he is basically the Flash, as I mentioned before. He can run at speeds exceeding Mach 1. So it's very, very quick. Possesses hyper-fast reflexes and enhanced durability. There is one thing I picked up in this show is that most of the Supes in it, good and bad, a lot of them seem like they're bulletproof, which is interesting, which is very interesting. So, the bad, here we go. So, Antony Starr, who plays Homelander, John Gilman is his real name in the show. So, I think Homelander is one of the most brilliant villains that we've come across in a very long time. I think he's up there with Heath Ledger in The Joker. The way that Starr portrays Homelander is terrifying because you think about it as well. This particular character is on the surface in front of the camera. He is very much Captain America / Superman, whatever you want to look, in front of everybody. He portrays this, but behind closed doors, he is an absolute menace. He is a psychopath. He is very, very insecure. I think he was born in a lab, so to speak, but then we find out later on that his father, which is, what's his name again? I can't recall. I'll get back to it in a second, but he's one of the best villains on screen. It's every time he comes onto the screen, he absolutely owns it, and it's just an amazing portrayal by Starr, and it's sad that it's over because we've lived with this guy for like 7 odd years, and it's just wild how much of an awesome villain he is. So, the vibe, a terrifying, aging, unhinged tyrant operating from the Oval Office. He believes he is a living god. And the whole theme around Season 5 is that they're trying to get V1, which his dad has in his bloodstream in the 50s. And Homelander's belief is that if he gets the V1, again, they're searching for it most of this season, he becomes immortal, so he can't die. As I just said there, he is aging. So that's the main mission for the bad Supes in this particular episode. So we've got here his powers, the ultimate package, laser vision, heat vision. You've got super strength, flight, invulnerability, X-ray vision, and super hearing. He's amazing. He's done very, very well. Again, I can't speak more highly of the acting here by Antony Starr. So, Sister Sage, her real name is Jessica Bradley, played by Susan Haywood. The vibe, brilliant puppet master behind Homelander's political coup. The powers that she has, hyper intelligence. She is the smartest person in the world, capable of calculating every political and social and military outcome steps ahead of everyone else. Her only weakness is that her brain cells regenerate so fast that she occasionally has to lobotomize herself for a break. There you go. So most people meditate. She gives herself a lobotomy. So wild stuff. Now, the Deep. Kevin Kohler, I think it's it, played by Chance Crawford. This guy is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. He's a Temu version of, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the characters in the the DC universe. Anyway, I can't remember his name, but he basically is the water guy in this particular series. He can talk to all the aquatic animals that are out there. He has relationships with octopus or octopi, if that's how you say it. And he is a comic relief in this movie. He's always sucking up to Homelander. Homelander thinks he's pathetic. He's one of the 7. And he does an amazing role as the Deep in this particular series. So we've got here a narcissistic, easily manipulated enforcer who goes full villain this season 5 that is, before meeting his poetic end in the ocean. So his abilities: aquatic telepathy, amphibious physiology, he can breathe underwater, he can swim at incredible speeds, and is telekinetic, I think, to command marine life. So we're going to wrap it up here very, very shortly. We've got here, when I say shortly, the show, I mean the characters, that is. So we've got Black Noir 2, his name is Justin, he's played by Nathan Mitchell. We've got here the Vibe, the narcoleptic narrator actor who is constantly complaining about his script before his betrayal and death midway through the season. His powers are super strength, flight, and high durability. Unlike the original Silent Noir, this version can fly and he can speak freely. So, cool character, that one. We've got Firecracker. Her real name is Misty Tucker Gray. She's basically sucks up to Homelander a lot as well. They all do, but this one in particular. And she meets a very bad end in season 5. So we've got here the Vibe, Vough's chief propaganda weapon who runs the media manipulation machine for Homelander. Her power, she can create sparks, mild pyrotechnic blast from her hands. Her real power is a massive alt-right media influence and manipulation. Oh Father, this next one up, Oh Father, Erin, played by David Diggs. This guy's hilarious. This guy is basically setting up the Church of Homelander. He's dressed in all white, and what his abilities are, he sings at church gatherings. Very, very cool. Very, very funny. And so his powers are, he's got a sonic scream. He can project devastating high-frequency sonic blasts from his mouth, capable of liquefying bones, until MM silences him with a titanium gag. I'll just put it that way. And I'll get to that in a second. And then we've got Ryan Butcher, who is the son of Homelander. And the vibe here, we've got Homelander's biological son, because in the series, you actually think that this guy, Ryan Butcher, is Butcher's son, hence the last name. But we find out through the series that he's actually Homelander's son. So we've got here the vibe. Homelander's biological son caught in a massive psychological tug-of-war between his father's fascist grooming and Butcher's memory of Becca. Becca gets killed by one of the Supes. I think it's Homelander. I'm pretty sure. I can't really remember that point. But his powers, he's inherited all of Homelander's abilities. Laser eyes, super strength, invulnerability, and flight as well, with potentially even being stronger than Homelander. So here we go. So we're going to wrap it up here in terms of who didn't make it in Season 5 from the boys. So let's go over it, and it's going to be sad to see this one go, but let's see who doesn't make it in Season 5. All that we've been waiting for. Again, massive spoilers ahead here. So if you haven't watched it, go back and check it out before watching this. Huge spoiler alert. Alright, so here we go. The big finale for The Boys Season 5. So the main deaths that take place. Again, you have been warned. Big spoiler warning. Frenchie on the boys' side, he doesn't make it. So how it happens, Frenchie doesn't make it even to the finale. He dies in episode 7, sacrificing himself to complete the chemical work the team needs to replicate Soldier Boy. That was it. I went blank for there for a while. Soldier Boy's power neutralizing radiation. So Soldier Boy is Homelander's dad. The chemistry between Soldier Boy and Homelander throughout the whole series is electric. So funny. Soldier Boy is from the 50s. He's one of the original Supes. There's some footage of him in the 80s as well when he was running amok. Very, very alpha male, and he thinks Homelander is pathetic. Although it's his son, he can't do away with him, but he just thinks he's just a guy that's got major, major problems. So Frenchie doesn't make it. In that one, we've got A-Train as well. He's basically taken out by Homelander. And this was a big scene that was very, very cool to watch. So how it happens, after officially flipping sides to the Resistance, A-Train saves Hughie from a direct ambush by Homelander. Earlier in the finale's build-up, Homelander chases him down, and after a brutal high-speed pursuit, Homelander executes him for his betrayal. I think he snaps his neck, memory serves. The Deep, this is very funny. So the Deep actually betrays his own sea life, and he creates a massive biological disaster where millions, I think, of aquatic sea life are killed. And the second last episode, when he's basically kicked out of the Seven via Homelander, is him sitting on a dock and he's drowning his sorrows in beer, and then a shark comes up, a hammerhead shark, which is voiced by none other than Samuel L. Jackson. Basically says, "Come on, man, get in the water." You got Sam behind me here. There you go, Samuel L. Jackson. Come, get in the water, man. And basically he says, "Nah, man." And then he says, "You don't know what the day I've had." And he said, "Right, that's it, you mother effer. You don't ever step foot in the water again. We know what happened with the genocide on March 15th. You are done. If you step foot in a puddle, you are completely going to be ripped apart by any sea life." So what happens with him in the White House? We've got Starlight and Deep that go at it. They end up on a beach. She kicks him into the water, and he's basically taken out by a lot of the sea life. So I'll just continue here. Blah, 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 blah. How it happens, Starlight lures him to a beach and uses her conclusive light powers to blast him straight into the raging ocean, because Black Noir 2 had framed him for an oil pipeline disaster. So he didn't actually do it. So Black Noir did it. Pipeline disaster, killing billions of sea creatures early in the season. The ocean's fauna is out for blood. The moment he hits the water, his former aquatic allies, including an octopus avenging his former lover, Ambrosius, former lover of an octopus. That's how wild this show is. Tears him to pieces. Okay, so moving forward, we've got Oh Father. He basically gets done by Mother's Milk because he's got this big sonar god voice thing that he uses. He is fighting the boys in the White House, and Ashley gives him a basically adult toy, I'll just put it that way, and it's indestructible apparently, this toy. And before he does his big voice of God, Mother's Milk comes over the top of him, puts it in his mouth, and his head goes and is all over the place. Pretty damn wild. So then we've come to the two big deaths in season 5. So we've got Homelander. How it happens. So this is your big mid-show segment. In the middle of the show, it wasn't right at the end. So basically after he kills the president, Homelander kills the president, it's all going completely pear-shaped. Homelander's out of control. It's just insane. So when that basically happens, we've got here, where are we here? He's in the Oval Office. Kimiko hits Homelander, Butcher and Ryan with a massive compound V stripping energy blast. Stripped of his godhood, mortal Homelander completely panics, cowering, weeping, and begging Butcher for mercy. And this is what happens with all bullies. I've dealt with people that are psychopaths in my life. I'm not going to name names. You know who you are. But when they're stripped of their ability to do things, they become very, very weak, and the light is exposed on them, and they are shown for the true people that they are. Now, there's a lot of controversy around Homelander's death in this particular series. I thought it was very, very good, because what happens is when he's stripped of his powers, he goes to zap Butcher with his laser eyes. They don't happen. And then realizing, okay, that's out, I'm just going to get out of here and fly away, he starts jumping up in the air like a little kid with pretend powers. And he is completely stripped back to the real person that he is, being a weak, pathetic bully. And that's what a lot of the Supes tell him throughout the series, is that he is weak and pathetic and he's not worth the paper he's printed on. And what Homelander does, he tries to fight Butcher. Butcher is basically a lot stronger than him when he's just human, catches his fist and then beats the absolute crap out of Homelander and gets out his famous crowbar and dives that into Homelander's head. And it is extremely graphic. Extremely graphic. Some people are not happy with this ending at all, but I think it's very, very fitting for the premise of the show and keeping true to what The Boys is. So then he gets taken out, and it's just an absolutely wild scene in the Oval Office. It would have been pretty good if they had a massive fight on the White House lawn, which I predicted would happen, but I came very close to how I thought this was going to all wrap up. And then the final death we've got here, Billy Butcher. So how it happens. So the final death of the series after killing Homelander, Butcher goes full comic book villain, believing that the cycle will just repeat. He rigs the Vought Tower, because Vought's still basically going on after this. The Vought Tower fire sprinkler system with the Supe killing virus, which is a big theme in this season as well. They thought they could kill Homelander with this virus. They kill a few of the other Supes with it. But then he gets the compound V, or V1, whatever it was, and becomes immortal, so to speak. And there's a little bit of grey area around that immortalness as well. But it makes sense because he's stripped of his powers from his dad's power when that happens, and it all goes pear-shaped for Homelander. So he's basically going to create a global genocide with this virus. Hughie corners him because he's in love with Starlight, and Butcher hesitates for a split second. They get into a fight, and then he hallucinates his dead brother Vinny's face on Hughie, giving Hughie just enough time to shoot his mentor twice in the chest. Butcher bleeds out on the floor, accepting his fate and making peace with Hughie. So that's how it all kind of wraps up for Season 5 with The Boys. So again, big spoilers here, but by the time you watch this, it's all over social media about these scenes. So it's the world's crappiest kept secret, if that makes sense. But The Boys is over. It's an amazing show. Go back and watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. You can probably watch this again. I probably will watch it again. There's a few shows that I probably, once you watch them, you just set and forget. Yep, okay, it's a good show, and then don't worry about it. The big one for me is like The Sopranos. Whenever that's on a streaming service, I always watch it. It's not on Foxtel or Foxtel Now here in Australia anymore, but when it was, they used to do box office or the box set, I think it was, and that occasionally play the whole series, and I can just watch it. You just watch it all the time. I feel The Boys is similar. You can watch it whenever you want. Now, there's two other series as well, which is Gen V, which we've just started. It only lasted 2 seasons, and apparently they wanted to focus on the originals. Some other things happened there, but I watched the first episode last night. Very solid, what I've seen thus far. And more to the point in terms of moving forward with a new series, which looks like it's going to stand pretty well, is that the trailer after the finale this week for The Boys, they've dropped, what's it called again? The Vought Rising, which is set in the 1950s, where you've got Soldier Boy and you've got a hell of a lot of other Supes back then. An amazing era as well, that 1940s, 50s style, that noir detective era. And as soon as I saw it, it reminded me of The Watchmen, the film. I think that's also a comic book as well that came out in 2009, which is set in 1985. Very similar feel to The Boys, and that bounces back to the 1950s as well. So that's going to come out next year. So some pretty cool things. I think they're going to keep expanding on The Boys universe because of how successful it is. And again, I don't think they can do too much wrong with this style of superhero, supervillain show, because I think the big blockbuster movies, I think they're all done. And not just superhero stuff in general. I think if you look at franchises like, maybe not Aliens. Aliens are pretty good. They're pretty good at the moment. Like Alien Romulus came out recently. Amazing show. But stuff like Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, like Jurassic World Rebirth came out. It's okay, again, but how many times are you going to try to create lightning in a bottle? Why don't you flip it to a series, explore ideas. Same with The Matrix as well. Explore ideas, don't rush them. Because when you try to rush and plug everything into a 2.5-hour film, you don't get to explore those ideas. And things feel rushed and people get upset and people want more of a particular idea. Slow it down, make it a series, and explore some new ideas so fans can keep loving these specific types of franchises. So that's it for my review for The Boys Season 5. Thank you for tuning in. And again, we are extremely pumped that we're not only on YouTube, Spotify for video format, but we're now on Apple Podcasts as well. So I'm pumped that we're one of the first shows, again, in my opinion, in the world that are doing video format on Apple. So thank you for tuning in to the review for The Boys Season 5. And as per usual, leaders on the Menjay.
You've just experienced DMR, the red carpet treatment. Now, get your